Hello, survivors. Welcome to the State of Decay 2 stream. I'm your host, Geoffrey, and we've got a pretty exciting show for you today because normally we wait until right before an update releases to show you what's going to be in it. But this time we were actually ready early, and so we're going to be diving into an update that we're planning on doing to vehicles right now. Well, almost right now. First, we got to introduce some people and do some housekeeping. So, Dan Mode is a hard surface artist. He's here because he has everything to do with our vehicles. A hard surface artist, as Dan's explained it to me, is somebody who doesn't do characters and clothing and squishy things and sticky things. You do, like Donatello from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you do machines. Is that right, Dan Mode?
That's correct.
So,
anything mechanical, I'm probably interested in it.
Okay, so and you can tell from the stuff behind Dan on his shelves that he's committed to beautiful works of metal and plastic. In addition to Dan, we've also got Brant Fitzgerald here. Brant, you want to say hi?
Hello.
There he is. There is Brant Fitzgerald. So Brant, he also contributed to this update, and he's going to be the one who's monitoring some of the questions that come in via the chat. So if you've got questions either about vehicles or just about anything hard surface art, go ahead and ask them. We're going to be trying to funnel the questions into us so that we can get them answered for you. And Brant's going to be at the front lines of that. But before we get into all of that, I just wanted to hit a couple of things. First off, thank you everybody who's been sending us positive feedback, and some of you critical feedback about the Green Zone update. We've found that it looks like 20% of our players have either been consistently playing in Green Zone or at least tried it out once, and we really appreciate that. There is one issue that folks have been having that we wanted to acknowledge, and that's the fact that when you've already unlocked a bunch of legacy boons at the higher difficulty levels and you start a new Green Zone game, some people are seeing an issue where not all of their boons show up on the list, and that is not intentional. That is actually a bug. We wanted you to be able to basically inherit all of those boons that you would earn at higher difficulty levels. So that's a bug. We've actually got it fixed in the version of the game that you're going to see us playing today, and so the next update, that fix should come out. So sorry about the inconvenience. Luckily, the Green Zone is a mode where we are a little lower on the difficulty, and so hopefully you can survive without those boons in the meantime, but sorry for the inconvenience there.
Hey, Geoffrey.
Yeah, Brant? What's up?
Somebody's already figured out your naming scheme.
Oh, really? Well, good. I'm glad that they're enjoying the little Easter eggs and the name tags there. So, the other thing I wanted to bring up is the scouting skill. I know we've gotten some feedback from folks that they wish we hadn't changed the way that characters sort of can unlock the icons on containers. Basically, it used to be that only characters with the scouting skill could see the icons on containers through walls when you were exploring a site. Now every character can after the site is cleared of zombies and is fully secured. And so a lot of folks are saying they wish that we would regress that or sort of revert that because they want their scouting skill to mean something. And we agree with you that the scouting skill needs to mean something. And it actually does, especially if you play on Nightmare. The scouting skill is the only thing that allows you to see zombie dots on your minimap, warning you of incoming attacks. So it still definitely has value in the game, but we did remove its one top-level perk. And so, not really remove it, but we just sort of matched it, gave it to everyone, rather than having it be exclusive to the scouting skill. But I don't think the right solution is to revert the change and make everybody deal with the missing and hidden containers again. I think the change we made was good. What we need to do is figure out a better thing for the scouting skill to offer at that higher level. And so we don't have a solution for that yet, but we have definitely heard the feedback, and so that's on our list. We want to figure out something else for the scouting skill to do to keep its value up, so that it doesn't feel like it's sort of the redheaded stepchild among the list of skills. And I can say redheaded stepchild because Dan Mode and I are both redheads, and as far as anyone knows, Brant is too. So we're not offending anyone that isn't present. Anyway. One last bit of housekeeping. As you know, if you've been watching the stream, we've partnered with the Red Cross to help promote the idea that people should go out there and they should give blood. Summer's always the driest month for blood donations anyway. Hospitals need this stuff. It doesn't just stick around. The most it can last, I think, is just a couple of weeks. So they need constant donations to keep it going, and especially with so many people in quarantine, a lot of folks aren't going out and doing things like giving blood. And so we're really wanting people to find out how many precautions the Red Cross is putting into place to make sure that that its donors are protected and safe and have a good experience. And you can find out about all the stuff that we're working with them on by going to stateofdecay.com/redcross. So we've been mentioning it every stream, and we're probably going to keep mentioning it because it's really important. So if you haven't yet, go and check out that link and see what it is that you can contribute, whether it's actually donating blood yourself or there's a number of other ways that folks can get involved. All that said, we've actually got a game to show you guys. So let's get in here. So right now, I'm sitting here on top of a rock, driving a trail beast, and the reason I'm on top of this rock is because it's so much easier to get on top of rocks now. So Dan, do you want to give us a little bit of the genesis of, like, you know, what was up with the vehicles before? Like, what were the problems when we decided to do an update to vehicles? What were the problems we were trying to solve, and sort of what was the initial way that you sort of approached the problem?
So one of the cool things about working at Undead Labs is if you have a passion for something and you go after it, more than likely you can have an impact on changing things in the game. And one of the things is I was always interested in how our vehicles drove and how they worked. And I thought I'd take a crack at it and to make it a little more user accessible for players. I noticed we got stuck on a lot of things, and sometimes we didn't have enough grunt to get up hills, stuff like that. So I made a prototype vehicle, which was the truck that you guys showed on an earlier stream.
Yeah, the one that eventually became the truck that I think it's the first truck we ever gave away with the Bounty Broker. That truck was your prototype,
Correct.
Right?
That was my prototype, right? So I did suspension adjustments, performance, handling, all that stuff to try to get it up and running and to where people liked it. And then this is back before COVID, probably around January, February this year. And I had a couple office mates, both of you included, come by my desk and drive it around and just give me their feedback. And people seemed to like how I was performing. So I started just going down the list. So first it was trucks, and then vans, and then SUVs. And then, because those were the larger vehicles, they seemed to kind of plod along, and they needed the most love.
Yeah, especially,
and then I switched.
Well, especially going up hills and long straightaways and things like that. It really felt like you had trouble getting some of these vehicles to feel like they'd really gotten going, right?
Right.
I'll
So then,
tell you that. Sorry to interrupt there. I'll tell you that you ruined my State of Decay driving experience by showing me that, Dan, because I never wanted to drive another vehicle that didn't have tuning settings on it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that means it's a good thing. It's working, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what I've done is all around this map of Drucker County, I have scattered vehicles, and so different classes of vehicles, different types of vehicles, and so I figured we'd just kind of go through them class by class, type by type. You can talk about sort of the way that that you approach the tuning of these vehicles, and I can sort of show people kind of the difference between if they can remember the way that vehicles are in the game right now, comparing them to this, I think they'll be able to see that there is, especially in some cases, a night and day difference. So I figured we'd start with sort of the smallest ones, the little nimble hatchbacks. So do you want to tell us a little bit about sort of like the way you approach the hatchback vehicles?
Well, a lot of games have established what a compact car should drive like, and one of the cool things we have in our game is we have several different types, so we have different classes. So one of the things here that was priority on the hatchback was fuel efficiency, right? It should be effective on the gas tank. It also should be pretty lightweight and pretty maneuverable. So I personally like to drive small cars, so I was kind of partial to the compact cars. And so if you want bias, there's bias.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of players who rely mostly on the compact cars because they can fit into a lot of places. They're really lithe and nimble, but they can get up to a pretty high speed because they're so light. But they also, especially there are variants of them that also have a lot of cargo space. So they're good all-around vehicles.
It's kind of a jack of all trades, master of none.
They're the best car in the game, by the way.
Yeah. They certainly have the best name in the game.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he was after.
So I should mention, by the way, as you're seeing me drive around, that one of the major Brant's major contribution to this is the fact that there is now a stronger difference between driving on pavement and driving on dirt. And actually, there was one update. I think it was update 17. We accidentally released it with Brant's changes to the terrain without Dan's changes to the cars. And so some people were, complaining that they couldn't get going on the dirt, because what we had was dirt that was slicker, but we didn't have all the additional sort of like power and torque and stuff that Dan had put into the cars. And so it just ended up being sort of not nearly as pleasant an experience. But as you're watching me drive around, check out sort of the difference between me. I can skid out. Certain cars are good at skidding out on the pavement like this, but every car it can do even a stronger job of spinning out in the grass or in the dirt. So I just wanted the audience to be paying attention to that, because that is another part of this change, right?
Yeah, one of the questions that we've been seeing is, are Dan's improvements going to make it harder to high center and get stuck on rocks? And Dan, take it away.
Oh, so one of the biggest changes and improvements I feel that the player will notice is that there's a lot less snag points on the bottom of the collision of the vehicle, which is what binds it with the environment. So as you can see, probably a little while ago, Geoffrey's driving around.
It is possible to get high centered, but you notice how long it took me to get high centered, and I could get myself off the rock without having to use the radio, which is a big deal. That spot right there would have been a permanent death, I think, with the previous tuning of the hatchbacks.
Yeah, I think we're not going to get rid of the unstuck button, because there's still situations where you can get stuck. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. It's totally what we're going for. It's going to be a little easier to, like, as you saw Geoffrey shake loose a little bit from that rock, and then there's a lot less snag points, so there's no like hard stops like we'd get in some of the previous vehicle collision stuff. So players should experience a lot smoother transition. And if you're going fast over terrain, like you might be going over stuff that would have stopped you before.
So yeah, so the difference between a standard vehicle and an apocalypse vehicle, like the one I'm driving right now, is I imagine a lot of times they have a lot more power. Is there anything else about sort of the way you approach going to an apocalypse vehicle from a standard vehicle?
One of the tricky things is that we have basically a game that's been out for a couple of years, and it's established rules of how the vehicles should behave. So using that as a okay, this is where players expect this to behave. Then we add what can we do to make it better, to perform better.
Yeah, like lean harder into the thing they already want it to do, right?
Let's push it a little bit further, right? So obviously the everyday use of getting less stuck is cool, but definitely we want to get a little bit more performance out of cars you think that should be fast. We should get more off-road capability out of cars that are higher off the ground and have more clearance. Based on the different type of vehicle that we have, you should expect just turn to 11.
Yeah, that is how it feels to drive these cars. They do feel like they've all kind of, but you take whatever they used to do before and turn it up to 11. So go ahead. So like you're getting into the sport model right here. I'm probably on a little bit of a delay from what the viewers are seeing, but what you have to say is much more interesting than what I'm going to say about this subject. So I'm going to keep deferring to you whenever you want to talk.
Okay. Well, this is the sport model. So this is a sport model of the hatchback. So it's kind of beefed up. So it's going to have quicker acceleration. It's probably not going to have the best ground clearance because of the aero kit on the body, but it'll still have the what you'd expect from a hatchback, but it's got a little more boost.
One thing that I've noticed is that the newly tuned vehicles, it feels like the top speeds are higher across the board. Like the very fastest cars couldn't get much faster than they were because they were already basically at the boundary for what we could handle with the streaming in chunks of the level. But the other cars that used to have lower top speeds, I feel like in general you can get around faster in most vehicles that used to be slow. Would you say that's accurate?
That's 100% accurate. A lot of the top speeds have been increased. We do have a cap that we need to stick to because we are an open world streaming game in Unreal.
Yeah.
So we can't go for land speed records for our vehicles.
Well, yeah, and actually, since we're talking about slow cars with new top speeds, I think there's probably the best way to illustrate that might be right over here. I know that one of our favorite streamers, Fallout Girl, is going to be excited about this. This is the Norma. Oh, and there's a zombie on me. Of course, get off. All right, so let me like sort of get a running start here because it is a Norma. It's still a Norma.
Love that Norma. I love it.
All right, so it takes some time to get going, like it always does, but once you actually get going down a straightaway, it's driving like kind of like a normal car. It's not as fast as that sport hatchback, but I feel like I'm actually going places, and I didn't always feel that way in a Norma.
Yeah, you shouldn't be punished. And she takes a little bit to get warmed up, but once she gets going, you're
Oh no!
you're cruising.
Ah, yes, dodged it just barely. So yeah, I don't want to drive too far. I'll get into the territory of the other vehicles. But yeah, like I could even sort of like do little sort of like bootlegger turns and stuff with the Norma, which used to be much harder to do. It just didn't have the power to sort of to overcome its own the friction of its own tires. But now it really once you get it going, it can be pretty interesting to drive.
So there's some reports of issues with sidewalk curbs, especially in Providence Ridge, and I can say we've known about that. It's not a Dan Mode issue; it's a system issue with how we lay out the roads, and we're working on trying to find the root cause of that. It's a physics problem, but Dan's work on the collision on the underside of vehicles is going to make a difference in a lot of those cases too.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So this is the Z Buster, which is the fancy apocalypse version of the Norma, and it's even got more power. you can really smash your way through some zombies with this guy. I feel like I should be beating on the hood and saying that meme. Oh, I can't remember what that meme is. But tapping the roof of the car and being like, "Oh, you got so many whatevers inside this baby."
Yeah.
Let's see. We got another question. Any upgrades to vehicle durability, especially in Nightmare?
Did you touch durability that much, Dan? It seems like that wasn't really the purpose that you were going after.
No, I didn't touch the durability. The durability was determined by the designers in charge of the different difficulty modes.
Oh wait,
part of.
So that's something that I have to explain.
Yep.
I tried to keep it, I wouldn't name it any names, but
yeah. So the reason why vehicles are much more fragile in Nightmare is partly because realism. I mean, I think we've all gotten really used to that in shows like The Walking Dead and stuff like that. It's like zombies are made out of paper mache. You can just hit as many zombies as you want, and it doesn't matter. They're just made out of paper. They're like piñatas. Get away from me, dumb zombie. They're like piñatas, and that's in real life. If you hit a person with your car is in trouble. If you hit a row of 10 people with your car, you're not driving out of that. That's kind of, it's kind of ghastly to even talk about that in real life. But you know what I'm saying? It's like cars can't actually just hit whatever they want and be fine. So partly it's a nod to realism, and partly it's just the fact that in versions of the game like in Green Zone, a vehicle is basically God mode. You can skip any combat you want, with the exception of juggernauts and sometimes ferals and bloaters. Like freaks are harder to deal with cars, but most like hordes and things like that, you can just smash them with a car and problem solved. And in levels like Nightmare, we really wanted to make sure that you had to engage with the combat system. You have to actually try to win these battles on foot. And so that means, the way we did that was just basically making it so you can hit zombies with your car still. We don't, stop you from performing that physical action, but it's costly in Nightmare, and which encourages you to stop the car, get out, and deal with the zombies the way you'd have to in a real zombie apocalypse.
So there's a question, will steering be improved? I find that I spin out a lot, and some of that is because of what Geoffrey was talking about earlier, about how we shipped the difference in friction on the road surfaces and didn't add Dan's tuning changes.
So that, yeah, go ahead.
So, Dan can speak a lot more to this, but every vehicle has different handling characteristics. And so there may be a little transition period where you're going to get used to how they drive, but they drive so much better now.
Yeah, so the way that I understand it, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, that basically, sort of like you were saying earlier, you kind of leaned into the strengths and weaknesses of each of the vehicles, so that there are going to be some vehicles where keeping a grip is actually something that takes a lot of attention and clever driving to keep them from spinning out. while they have other advantages. Whereas there's some other vehicles that are going to be much grippier and actually hard to spin out on purpose if that's what you want to do, because they're so good at avoiding that. Is that would you say that's accurate?
Right. For example, like the vans, we're not going to be drift kings in the panel vans, but if you get into a coupe or a sedan, it's going to be a little more forgiving on the traction on the side to sides.
So we've got a couple of different kinds of pickups here, right? So we've got the Normans, which we already talked about. We've got these modern pickups that I'm sort of demoing right now, and we've got the mid-size pickup, which is a new addition to the game. Well, do you want to talk a little bit about sort of the differences between these three vehicles, like how you would have approached their tuning differently?
So this one right here, I believe in game it's called the Rames, right?
Yeah, this particular one is a utility truck, but it's based on the Rames, and I can get back into the Rames.
I apologize, guys. The names that I see are different than what ships in the game.
Yeah, this is vehicle version... modern utility.
Yeah,
or whatever.
So the vehicle modern utility, that one is kind of like the Goldilocks. It's the balance between the other truck variants that we have. The Norma is kind of like, doesn't have as sharp as acceleration. It's not going to be the big hauling truck that we come to expect from like a big diesel. It's got some age on her, but she's still old reliable. And then we have the midsize, which is the lightweight. Probably has a large aftermarket following, so it's easier to buy it, being able to have kit on it that will get you up and over stuff. So
yeah, so notice that that it's much easier to you can be a drift king in the mid-sized truck. You can go kind of nuts with this guy.
Yeah, especially off the pavement. It's gonna.
Yeah, but it's also got great clearance, so you can get over things you normally couldn't get over.
One thing that Dan put a lot of work into, and I know many of you will appreciate, is your ability to use the reverse up hills now.
Oh yeah.
Yes. That was a big pet peeve of mine. Going in reverse.
Find a hill. There we go.
If you put it on the stream, it's not going to work. But
here, let me. Yeah.
Give the reverse gear a little more grunt, so you can get up and out of stuff before, where you couldn't really do that before.
Yeah. So just going up hills in general was a big deal. Was really hard. And one of the reasons why we started really thinking about retuning the vehicles as being a big deal was because of some of the huge hills in the new map in Providence Ridge. Where people were basically noticing that cars that you could sort of tolerate before became really, really onerous to drive when you were going up to the northeast corner of Providence Ridge. And so now, I mean, this truck was the first one that you really showed to us that did this, but being able to go up a hill like that at top speed feels really, really good.
Yeah, this new addition is going to have a big impact on fall downs, speed runs in Nightmare too.
Yeah, that's true. So okay, so we've looked at the pickups. I'm going to head down to a different part of the map, and we can take a look at the sedans. So that includes both our older classic sedans, our modern sedans, and our our iconic police and taxi sedans. So that I've got those down in the southeast corner of the map over here. Hope I can remember where I put everything, because I spent some of the afternoon just setting up all these rows of cars to show off. And
so
yeah,
Mr. Monster, this vehicle update is not live yet.
Right. This is not. We haven't announced a release date for it. It's not going to be for a few weeks. That we're planning on spending the next few weeks going over multiple things that appear in that update. So the vehicle update is just one part of it. Next week we're going to be showing you the next phase, and the week after we'll show you something else. We've got a lot to share, and so this is only one thing, and it's going to take a while for the actual update to land because we've got so much to show you. So here is my sedan section. So let me just park this car nicely out of the way. There we go. That's where it goes. And okay, so what should I drive first? Maybe the classic old-fashioned, what was this, late 60s model sedan?
I love that car.
Yeah, I know, me too. I kind of like the muscle car coupe variant of it better, but still, this is a lot. It's a lovely boat. It's a boat that turns like a jet ski. It's great. So tell me about the sedans, Dan. Like what sort of, are they sort of just like the middle of the road car, or is there something special about them?
So the sedan classic is what it's called on my end.
Yeah, it's called the Legendra, I think. The Legendra. I don't know if it's French or Spanish, so I don't know how to pronounce it, but there you go.
Actually, we should just record that and have that Dan's voice play every time you open the door.
Oh, just
Every time you get in.
Just as the honk, just
The
Legendra. So this car definitely feels like it's got a lot of weight and a lot of torque. So it's like this is one of the easiest cars, I think, to do my sort of favorite like bootlegger turn move, where you just spin.
Yes, but a lot of cars
in
from this
space.
era were really good at going in a straight line. They were good for cruising. They had a great big giant motor, long wheelbase, nice and heavy, but they weren't the best for changing directions and safety.
Yeah. So so trying to take a sharp turn like a normal car, it might be a little bit tougher. Oh, look, a feral. But if you want to just thwack a zombie with the back end of your vehicle, this one is like a baseball bat.
They came with narrow tires and leaf spring suspension, and they're pretty basic on the handling and stopping point. But
So-
it's just classic. It's fun. It's a cool look to have in this game, and I love the old car aesthetic. So.
Yeah, it definitely contributes to sort of that like nostalgic vibe that you kind of get from State of Decay. And one thing I appreciate,
Exactly.
by the way, is so if I had been assigned to tune the vehicles, I would have approached it like a game designer. Like basically somebody who's just okay, well here's each class of vehicle, here's how how high its torque needs to be, and how how heavy it needs to be, and I would sort of like do it on a spreadsheet. Hearing you talk about these vehicles and sort of like your actual knowledge of the real world differences between these vehicles, why they behave the way they behave, why they work the way they do. I don't know. I feel like you bring something to this that sort of somebody who's just only coming from the video game world doesn't really bring. Because like an actual love of sort of the real world cars these are based on, and a desire to to even in places where you have to compromise for the gameplay, still do a nod to the flavor and to sort of the meaning of what these cars were.
I appreciate you saying that. Cars are my first passion ever since I was little. I'm just under 40 years old. So for almost 40 years, I've been researching and learning about cars and buying cars and working on cars. And so it's a big passion of mine. And so it was a really great opportunity. Again, like I said before, it's awesome that Undead Labs let an artist wear a designer hat for a little while.
Yeah.
It was a cool experience, and I learned a lot from it, and I hope I get to do more work like this in the future.
Well, it helped that once you made that mid-sized truck, everyone loved it so much that basically we're like, okay, yes, do that to all the vehicles. And we kind of were like,
Sprinkle that dust onto everything.
We didn't just randomly let you do this job. Like it was because you definitely showed that you knew what you're doing. So that was nice. I'm not sure why I have this NPC following me around. She's kind of weirding me out.
You keep trying to hit her with your door too.
I know. She looks like a zombie. Hey, Sandra.
Let her in the car.
Sandra, what are you doing? Oh, I can recruit you? No, go away. I'm trying to do a stream right now. Leave me alone.
Is she hostile?
No, luckily she just ran off. Okay, so we've got the so that was the Legendra. Now what about the Miragra? Miragra.
So kind of similar to the hatchback. It's the same kind of size wheelbase. You can imagine they probably make. Well, those are strong cones. You could probably make a hatchback version of this car, in the expanded universe. So
yeah, that's true.
So I kind of use that as a basis, but also a little bit more of a European feel. So.
And one thing you'll notice is that I'm doing the exact same thing with my controller that was causing a 180-degree spin in the Legendra, but here the Miragra barely makes it around. And so if you're driving a car that you feel like you're having trouble controlling it, especially in the dirt, look for cars like this one. Like this Miragra is actually really good at gripping the pavement and not just getting into an out of control spin. So it sort of becomes a question of just which which kind of car are you interested in driving. Now, if I stray into the dirt, I can get this thing to spin a lot faster, and maybe get some of that bootlegger turn effect, but not nearly as much as you get from the Legender.
Wait, are those cones are the cones people are talking about the ones in front of the factory there?
Not sure.
It's around the 18-wheeler that's parked out front.
Oh yeah. Oh, those are pretty solid, aren't they? Oh, look at that.
Okay.
We got to fix that. Brant, you making a note?
We're doing some work on the map, so on this particular map. So I'll make a note of that.
Yeah.
And I'll also make a note that the vehicle tuning is a work in progress. Like there's still going to be some stuff that it's going to be updated, but I don't think it'll be super noticeable in what we're seeing here. So.
Yeah, if you're a super connoisseur like Dan Mode, I'm sure that there will be no amount of tuning to these cars that will feel like they've become perfect. But
yeah, I'm gonna keep working on them until they tell me to stop. So
I appreciate that. So again, this is the Wichita ES. It's the version of the Maragra that is. It's got the extra cargo space and more power. Especially considering the fact, I mean, the Wichita is actually one of the vehicles that I think has made the biggest transition from the way it used to be before to the way it is now. Not only has it gained a bunch of cargo space, but it's one of the vehicles that's at least the vehicle that's based on is the one that's one of the grippiest vehicles. It's pretty good at driving fast and agile. I suspect that even though this was actually one of our least popular vehicles prior to the last few updates, I would love to. I hope that we get to see the Wichita ES become one of the more popular ones now.
Yeah, it's super usable with the cargo container up top now.
Yeah, it's a sensible family car.
Yeah.
Yes. For the sensible apocalypse family. So yeah,
it
doesn't have quite as much space as a van, but it's got more than a pickup truck. What were you gonna say, Dan?
No, I was just making a ribbon off what Brant said.
Oh,
it's the responsible choice.
I just realized, yeah, we got the police cars over here. Let's have a look at these guys.
Dan really wants you to drive that sports car, though.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll go back to it.
It's my favorite.
So I've turned off the audio for myself, so I can't hear this siren. I really hope it's not drowning us out or anything. But I remember the police cars being, basically the fastest and most powerful cars in the original State of Decay. They put a lot of juice under the hood of these cop cars. And what do you want to tell us, how you approach these sort of Crown Vic inspired vehicles?
So basically, it's all about pop culture, and in pop culture, police cars to me say Smokey and the Bandit car chase stuff. So these need to feel like they could chase down some Smokies and some bandits.
So that's the police car, and then we've of course got the upgraded police car over here.
This is the first car I modeled at my job at Undead Labs.
I really love the look that it's got. I mean, it's got kind of all of these plates that they're obviously aftermarket, but they it's this really nice blend between sort of becoming more angular, more so you can sort of see the manual welds and things like that people did to put these things on, but it still sticks to the overall lines of the vehicle, and it's just really pleasing to look at. So yeah, I can tell we immediately knew we had a good one when we saw.
Can I get the factory apocalypse option?
Yeah. I was gonna say, isn't that just a kit?
Yeah.
Yeah, they should sell kits like this. People would love to drive around in a car like this. Well, probably hurts your gas mileage to have just a bunch of chunks of
probably
extra
adds about
steel.
2,000 pounds. So.
From Dr. Lackenstein, will the sport versions of the Miagra and the Road Racer be getting boosts to performance? And we may have already answered that. But
yeah, let me get in this. I kind of breezed by the sport version. Let me take this to the next area. You can see it driving a long way. How do I get to the next area? That way. Okay. So yeah. Oh, whoa! Well, that's lovely. Oh, hey, one change that Dan made that we should point out is that the smaller cars used to get you basically used to become turtles if you turned them upside down. You couldn't rotate them enough to get them turned right side up without sort of getting out of the car. but you actually sort of change the sort of the stuff under the hood that lets people air touch their car and sort of get it to do kind of unrealistic things to get back on its feet. But yeah, I really appreciated when you did that with some of the smaller cars. So now all of the cars should be able to roll over if you get them on the roof without you having to get out and get into weird shenanigans. Yeah, so
it'll be a lot easier to upright it.
Yeah, so check out how fast this sucker's going. It's not too bad. And speaking of going fast, no. Speaking of going fast, I've got the opposite of that coming up here. I'm pretty sure vans are next on the list. Where did I stick those vans? Oh yeah, I see them.
You're hurting Dan's feelings every time you ram that car into something.
Oh yeah, well how about I just high center it? That's
Put it
much
on a
better.
rock. Put it on a rock. Show the people.
There you go.
I just gotta take out some zombies first.
Yeah, you can't unstuck that.
Yeah. So I have kind of hopes that I might be able to pull that one off, but I want to see a van now. So let's hop into a van. So vans are historically the big slow turtles of the game, right? They you could really feel the difference. That a van could not get going fast at all, especially going up a hill. They were some of the worst. Now I feel like that difference, while I can still feel the difference between driving this car and driving the sports sedan, the difference isn't crippling anymore the way that it used to be. You can see, like, it doesn't take that long for me to get up to a pretty reasonable feeling speed in this van, especially out on the open road. Now, I think these vans, they're not as agile on the off-road, are they?
No.
Especially this passenger van. It's got really low clearance, and it's not the one you're going to want to take rock hopping.
No, but if you want to load it up full of stuff, that's the job.
Yeah, exactly. Like they have the highest capacity of any vehicle in the game, which makes a big difference. And and still even even the stuff they're not really specialized in, they're better at it than they were before. Like doing things like climbing on these rocks and everything. Like I would easily in like the Apocalypse hatchback could have or definitely the Jeep could have gotten up this rock, and I can sort of do it with the van. But you can really feel that I'm straining to make it happen. But it's not impossible, So there we go. Yeah, so it's like
a lot of people
much more awkward, but
a lot of people are commenting they haven't seen this van before. That it's passenger van.
It's one of our rarer vans. I actually when I was testing these and I saw it, I was like, wait a minute, does this van never appear in the game? I don't feel like I've ever seen it. No, I think. A tester went through, because I raised the issue, I actually bugged it that this van wasn't appearing. A tester went through and they did actually find that this van does spawn naturally, just at a very low rate. And so it is unusual to find a passenger van in the game, but it is real. I think just a lot of our van slots ended up getting taken up by the utility van, which is it's kind of a favorite because it's usually I don't know if this one would have had it in the back, but yeah, I think these ones that I cheat spawned don't have the item spawn in the back of this one. Usually comes with a bunch of toolkits and stuff. People really like it. And so we end up with a lot of these vans, and we don't end up with nearly as many of these.
We have a lot of variants of the cargo, more than we have the passenger van. So,
that would make a difference too. Yeah, you're right.
So that multiplies that. And then also in the real world, people are going to use more panel vans. Vans aren't quite as popular as of recent times.
That's true. Like SUVs have kind of taken over that sort of like big family car with a lot of options. Like we used to have a van and we replaced it with an SUV, an iFamily. So apparently that's what the world did. So now we've got the Vandito though, and check out the clearance on this guy. I have, just looking at this van, I've got higher expectations for what I'm going to be able to do on a rock compared to
So his front guard is lower in the front.
Okay, so getting up on something is going to be harder, but
not as much clearance, but it does have good clearance to get over some stuff, more so than a standard van. So
like this same move I was doing before should be that's much easier with the Vandito than it was with the standard passenger van. Brent, were you saying something?
Did you cheat the meat wagon?
I did not cheat myself a meat wagon. No.
Too bad.
I know.
I saw it. I thought there.
I know. It's just a red cargo van. It's not the meat van.
Okay.
But yeah, so you see, this one is much more usable off-road, in addition to having the highest storage of any vehicle in the game. So, especially now that the Vandito can sort of match a lot of the other cars in terms of its top speed, even though it takes a little bit longer to get up to that top speed, it can still sort of travel at a decent clip. I can imagine the Bandito getting even more popular than it was before, because it's got the people in the chat before the stream were talking about how much they value inventory capacity in vehicles, and the Bandito is really hard to beat when those are your priorities. How about I don't high center this one on on that barrier? But yeah, check out driving over rocks. Try to drive over rocks in the current game with a van. Just see what happens to you. Woohoo! So I think we kind of covered our van needs. I didn't really drive the cargo van separately. I don't know if the ambulance is much different from the Bandito. I mean, sorry, I don't know if the ambulance is that different. Is it? Let's check out the ambulance.
We need to clear up a little bit. So in our last update, we increased the capacity of the fuel.
Yes.
So you'll be able to. Some cars will take multiple cans to fill up, but.
Yeah, so cars still burn fuel at the same rate they always have. You can just put more in them at first.
So carrying an extra can will not increase the capacity of the car, but you'll be able to put more gas in and therefore run longer.
Yeah. Okay, so here is my favorite class, which is the coupes. So let me pull over here and get into some coupes. So here, should I start with the racers or the muscle cars?
Time to reload.
Oh no, reloading! No! Ah! You guys got to vote? Muscle cars or racers?
I like the muscle cars.
Okay, let's go muscle. This one is probably this is sort of the classic, Vin Diesel Fast and Furious car. That's how I think of it anyway. So tell us about this baby.
Yeah, sharp-eyed car enthusiasts will be able to pick apart the design here. But yeah, same kind of thing. A little bit from the vintage sedan, but of course peppier. It's lighter weight. It's going to have the older suspension with a little bit more tire on this one, so it's going to have a little bit more grip. But it's still definitely rear biased, so it's going to be snappy around corners, and you pull that handbrake as you turn, stuff like that. Also, another big update, handbrakes lock up the rear wheels. That's what they do with real life, and we had it on the front for a while, so now, nice.
Yeah, so now you're gonna get much more sort of like realistic behavior from the car when you're doing those like 180 bootlegger turns. You're gonna get much more. Well, the way that I'm flipping this car every time is hilarious to me. But yeah,
like I said, tune is not final. We're probably gonna look into that as soon as this stream is over.
but yeah, but still, you do these sort of like sideways, drifting in this car is one of my favorite things to do in the game.
Yeah, but it's also a barrel roll is also an epic way to take out a horde of zombies.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you can hit zombies with the back of your car, with less penalty than hitting them with the front. I don't know what hitting a zombie with the top of your car does. I don't even know what the rules are there.
I kind of want to see you roll the car onto a zombie.
Yeah, I kind of do too. I don't know if I can really predict it. It doesn't happen every single time. Oh! I just barely missed it. You guys are on a delay, so you're not going to get to see it until seconds after I do. But
you still got him.
Oh.
Did I? No, I think he's. No, did I get him?
No,
I got him.
You squished him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought he was non-squished.
Squished.
Oh!
And squish. There we go.
Yes.
Crunch.
It's fun being able to tell exactly how long our Twitch delay is, by the way, from when you guys react to the things that I'm doing. Okay, well, hey, that was this car. So let's check out the Apocalypse version.
Some people love that it's flipping and ask me to please keep it in.
I mean, see, I really don't mind the idea that some of these cars, they keeping them on the road and keeping them, takes a little bit more skill, but you can also do more acrobatics with them. I think the last cars I've got on the list are the four-wheelers and the sort of off-brand Jeeps. And they're some of my favorite ones because they're so loose with their grip on the ground. You can do weird things with them. And, you know, if every car was that way, that might not be what you want. But if there's just one type of car that gives you that kind of, you know, power to just do weird stuff with your wheels.
Especially with the Apocalypse versions.
Oh, yeah.
I figured this was a couple of people that thought they knew what they were doing in a shed.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Not necessarily trained engineers who make commercial products. So I kind of wanted to make the Apocalypse cars fun, but a little bit unruly, like a little rock and roll, you know.
They're kind of like. Did you ever see that that movie Monster Trucks? Is that what it was called? There's like aliens living inside of truck chassis.
No, but
it should feel a little bit like that.
Spiritually, yes.
If you haven't seen that, I can just send you the trailer. It's insane. That someone made. Oh, you do know what I'm talking about?
Has the blue tentacles poking out?
Yes, that thing was just. I never watched the movie, but I just loved the idea that such a weird thing existed. But yeah, so you'll see that, like, you know, that you can. This car, it definitely fishtails more as you're like trying to get it under control. But it just, yeah, like you said, it just makes it feel like an unruly beast, which I love.
So before, it was just like real snap oversteer, which means it would just like all of a sudden spin out 180 on you, and I kind of wanted to give it a little more linear, but make it a little more predictable. But it is still pretty crazy, and you know, I figure if you got two gigantic tanks full of gasoline on the rear tires, it's gonna throw the weight off a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. Take that. All right, so we've got the modern coupes, the racer coupes, the road racer. So this is the basic one. This is the one that does not have the top speed in the game, but is pretty darn fast and gets up there real quick.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how the handling turned out on this one.
Yeah, I can do those kinds of turns, but it doesn't feel like it's as unruly or just out of control as the you know, as the muscle cars do.
So here's a question that
Yeah.
is kind of stumping me. Can a Feral still blow up the gas tanks? I didn't know they were capable of doing that before.
I didn't think that was a thing either. I don't know what they're talking about. Oh, there's so much we don't know about our own game sometimes.
Does hitting zombies with the door do less damage to the car?
It mostly just damages the door. The door has an independent set of hit points. And so eventually that door will pop off because you're doing the zombies. But yes, the thing you're avoiding is doing engine damage to the car. The thing that makes the car smoke and eventually catch fire and explode. You're not making... If you're just hitting zombies with your door, well, eventually the door's going to go away. You're not doing engine damage to the car, so the car's not risking blowing up as a result of those collisions.
So my tactic since State of Decay 1 was go to a house full of zombies, honk the horn, and then reverse around the house.
Exactly.
And then go inside and get the goodies.
Yep.
That was always my tactic.
And that still kind of works.
I mean,
so this is the racer. This is the Road Racer MX, which is much faster. And this is the car that has the top speed in the game. And so you can see, like, you know, it gets up to the speed fast. You know, this is we have to make this the top speed because otherwise we're never going to be able to load things in fast enough. You're going to hit those like weird loading barriers, you know, and it hit a bunch of hiccups and stuff that you don't want to have. So so this is the top speed, but this car gets there pretty fast, and I just love tooling around the city at top speed like this.
So this car actually reminds me. I worked with my buddy Jordan over in the audio department, and we got a lot of audio updates, and we did some transmission timing.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to improve how the engines sound and how they behave when they're accelerating, decelerating, things like that. And we tried to do the best we could to improve that experience, make the cars. A big part of driving experience is the sound of the vehicle you're in, unless you're one of the Tesla people. But and nothing wrong with electric cars. I saw a lot of comments about people going, "What about batteries? Where are you going to charge it? Are you going to get on a unit bike and run a generator? I don't know." But that's something to think about.
Yeah, one of the downsides of the fact of the way that we're streaming right now, the setup that we've got, is that neither Dan nor Brant nor I can actually hear the audio of the game right now, so we can't enjoy the sound of these cars shifting from one gear into the next. which is too bad because especially when we were driving those muscle cars, that's some of my favorite sounds in the game is those muscle cars revving up and changing gears and just everything that's going on with those big honking engines.
Yeah, our audio guys are awesome, and it was great working with them. And it's definitely a big part of the driving experience. So I hope the players get to enjoy that when this comes out.
Okay.
All right, so we have an update on the exploding gas tanks from Farrell's.
Okay.
That Viking with the big gas tanks in back, apparently a Farrell can climb on the back and blow up your car.
What?
This would be total news to me.
What? I had no idea. I mean, I believe it. Sure, why not?
After we're done here, I'm gonna go cheat a bunch of Farrells and get that Viking and drive around and see if I can get him to blow up my car, because that would be amazing.
So that's by design.
I'm sure it is. I mean, it would be hard to make
course.
that happen without somehow being intentional.
Of course, we meant that to happen. Any plans to bring the pop tire mechanic back from SOD1? I would love it. I don't think we have plans to do it.
Yeah, we haven't done that. Yeah, we haven't really talked about doing that. Oh, hey, what? Oh, I think I just passed a place where I dropped off some cars. So I just realized we have 10 minutes left, so I'm gonna have to rush a little bit through the next couple classes of vehicles. Luckily, the last one that I had on the list, the Jeep, is the one I started in, so people got to see a little bit of Jeep going on. There they are. Yeah, I blew right by the SUVs and the military trucks. So let me get in these guys. So these are some of like the heaviest, biggest vehicles in the game, which is just it's a whole different thing from a lot of the other cars we've been driving.
Also, to head off a lot of questions that I know will happen, we cannot put a Humvee in the game. That's a legal issue. We cannot do it.
Yeah, that's actually one of the one of the reasons why we keep strenuously not emphasizing that our off-road vehicles are not Jeeps. Yeah. They're a little different, and very similarly, yeah, we couldn't do a proper Humvee. They're they've got a really distinctive look that is jealously guarded, and we don't. Yeah, so we've got our own breed of military truck.
We do have the military pickup truck, and I have seen some feedback that people would like to see more military vehicles. The challenge with that, I'm not saying that I would never do it, but things like a Unimog and big giant trucks like that, they are larger, so we have to figure out pathways and roads and clearance from street lights and things like that. There's all these clearances that we have to consider in the entire environment. So if we just add a giant vehicle, it affects environment art and everything the level design has to go through. So
yeah,
it's a collaborative effort, and it's not one of the things you can just pepper onto something. So it's a team effort for sure.
Captain Fish, it's not just the name Humvee. It's actually the silhouette is litigated aggressively. So to avoid any of that issue, we just won't do it.
So you'll notice that driving this military truck, those bootlegger turns are just not a thing. Like if you want to, stay on the road and have the car only do exactly what it's supposed to do, I mean, you get a big, heavy guy like this one, and you're not going to be spinning out of control.
Yeah, I've always wondered if we could ever hook a trailer up to something and see what kind of towing capacity our cars could do, because there's a thing in vehicles called the final drive, and you set that to determine whether it accelerates or if it has lots of torque and grunt behind it. And this is definitely tuned for the latter.
Yeah, definitely not promising towing as a feature, by the way.
No towing, no trailers.
Because, yeah, I know they do that in Grand Theft Auto, but it's elaborate. It's a big problem, and I don't envy the people who had to solve that on that game.
Grand Theft Auto teams are probably 10 times the size of ours. So.
Yeah, exactly.
The Snow Runner and Mud Runner games are pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, granted, they don't have to do anything else except have cars, but they've done an amazing job on that. Someday, you never know.
Okay, so I think the last car in this set that we want to show off is the upgraded SUV, the Smash Wagon. Why don't I, because we only got 6 minutes left, how about I take this over to where I got the Jeep start? So this is it feels
Geoffrey,
like
they're called four-wheelers. Stop using the
I'm sorry, four-wheelers, where the four-wheelers are counted.
It's 2020, we don't use that
Don't
word.
use the road, man.
Oh yeah, that's true.
What are you doing?
I have no idea. This is, yeah. I remember actually when I lived in during that like really epic El Nino in the late '90s. I lived in Orange County, California, and there were like entire intersections that were just completely flooded. And my favorite thing was hanging out those intersections and watching people in their big SUVs creep up to the intersection and like look at it and be like, oh, I don't know, and then back away and then go somewhere else. And then somebody would drive a little '80s hatchback up and just plow right through the giant lake, and they just didn't even care. And I was like, you SUV people in California, like, didn't you like the commercial with all the mud in it? Didn't you think that that's what you're going to be doing with this car, and you're just inching up in this puddle? So definitely I need to drive these things off road. So you see, the clearance is better than it's been in the past. I actually wanted to come to this area specifically to show off the Jeeps because it's got so many weird little rocks.
The four-wheelers.
The four-wheelers, to show off the four-wheelers.
You are fired.
Yeah. So here we are. I've lined up a bunch of four-wheelers. Take that, zombies.
There's lots of questions about adding gun turrets to cars, and sadly, I'm just going to say no, because
there's a whole bunch of problems to solve there.
Massive number of problems to solve, and we just don't have the time and personnel to do that at this point.
So here we go. So these guys are definitely designed. I already showed you one of them. These guys are definitely designed to go off-road. I mean, look at that.
That's a dream come true right there. Thank you, Dan Mode.
And that's just with a vanilla vagabond. That's what we call these suckers. That's just a vanilla vagabond. We got the sport vagabond over here, and then we will spend our last couple minutes with the apocalypse version.
Yeah, the day that Dan put in that first set of tunings, I think I wasted the rest of the day driving over every rock I could find.
Yeah. I mean, see, they definitely have these little these hard bumps to them, but I mean, those rocks are real. The car really has to get over them. But you just feel like this car's suspension is just doing something else that the other cars aren't doing, and it can get over stuff that nobody else can get over.
So a big part of it is the collision belly of the vehicle is higher. So especially on these, so you'll be able to get over stuff. See, like that one, it's hard because I'm on a delay, so
it's hard to comment on what's right on the screen right now. Yeah.
But those rocks jutting out of the ground, like that would have stopped you previously, like cold dead right there.
Yeah, every single one of these rocks would have stopped you like an orange cone in the middle of the street. The way those just stop you immediately.
So here's a good question. How many different variables make up each car? Was there anything that was particularly hard to get precisely right?
Yes, still dealing with it. So the first part of the question is yes, there's tons of variables. We have I don't know how developer we want to get, but we have a file in Unreal called Game Forces, and it's essentially how the vehicle behaves, and that's acceleration, drift factor, braking. Then we have wheel files for front and rear wheels. Rear wheels. It's hard to say. So we have files that independently control. Like we could theoretically make a vehicle that turns both front and rear tires, but we're not going to do that because our game is somewhat grounded in reality.
Yeah. No warthogs. Sorry.
No warthogs. But so there's tons of variables. I would probably say 30 to 50, and then add on top of that, there's the collision and how it behaves in the environment, and then Brant's variables that he added with the if you're driving on grass, like Geoffrey's doing currently in my stream, and mud versus the tarmac or concrete pavement roads. So
one of my favorite. So when you originally checked in all these changes, and I went through and I was testing all the vehicles, my favorite one was this Trail Beast. Just doing donuts in the grass in this Trail Beast was just insane. Like, this is definitely, I mean, if there's a vehicle, if you're one of the folks who's like, anytime you lose grip on the road, you get irritated, this is not the vehicle for you. This is the vehicle for me. Which, like, this is how I love to drive. It's like, if I could just drive sideways for as long as possible, like, then you've hit my dream car. for a video. If I can just drive right down the street at
To the
90
previous
degrees.
To the previous question, I would say that was the biggest challenge. Is for Geoffrey, this type of vehicle is perfect. He loves it the way it is. But for other people, they'll say, oh, I can't get it straight. It just keeps spinning out on me. So it's all about trying to find a balance for players. You still want to have that characteristic of loosey-goosey. This is a short wheelbase vehicle. It's high off the ground. It's going to have a different center of gravity than like the low slung sports car, where everything's in between the wheels. Everything's on top of the wheels. So it's kind of going to have different physics reactions. So Unreal does a really great job of figuring out how to balance things in the physics and how they're set up in the game.
Yeah, the nice thing about having so many different classes of vehicles is that, like, people who want the sedan have got the sedan. People who want the Vagabond have got the Vagabond. Look, I didn't say Jeep. And so we're out of time, but thank you so much for coming in here, Dan, and showing us what was going on here, because this is, I feel like this is one of the actual more exciting upgrades we've done to the game, because the experience of driving a vehicle is just sort of, it's endemic throughout the game. It's like you can't do anything in this game without the vehicle playing a huge part in it. And these vehicles are so fun to drive now. I'm really thrilled about it. Really excited for when other people can get their hands on it. So thank you so much, Dan.
I encourage new players, seasoned players, when this update hits, try them out and give vehicles that you didn't like before another shot and see. You might end up coming around and enjoying the new setup, because a lot of things have changed a lot. So I encourage you to run through the vehicles you find in the game and check them out, see what you think. You might have a new favorite.
Yeah, that's true. So thank you all so much for coming here. We're going to wrap it up. In fact, we're a little bit over time. But thank you so much for coming in here, Dan. This has been great. And we can't tell you when this update is landing, but it's going to be very soon. And we're going to have more people in, like Dan, coming in over the next couple of weeks to show more upgrades that we're making to the game coming very soon. So thanks, Dan.
Bye, everybody. Thank you very much.
And then we should switch over to Brant. Brant, you want to say goodbye to the audience?
Yep, as usual, guys. Thanks for spending part of the day with us. We love you. We're still humbled and amazed that there's enough interest in this game, continuing to allow us to make more and more updates like this one, where we're just trying to make the game better and more fun. So thank you, and keep up the great work, and wear a mask.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with that, we're going to wrap up the stream. Don't forget to go to stateofdecay.com/redcross if you want to learn more about donating blood in this particular time of need. And beyond that, we're just excited to see you next week. So, if you're watching this later on YouTube, just subscribe, click some links. You can get more information about the game as it comes in. And now we're just gonna sit here for, 10 more seconds.
It's always so awkward.
I know. This is the best part of our stream right here.